What is going on, collectors? Optical 20 back for another video review. Today we are going to take a look at Cyborg Special Edition from Hot Toys, and you can still pre-order this at bigbadtoystore.com. I'll put the link down below. This is my most anticipated figure for this year. I love Justice League. I love the Snyder Cut. I know a lot of people didn't, but I'm one of those guys who, I don't know, there's something about Justice League, maybe growing up or so. I love it. I love the tone of DC overall. And finally, something that I thought was never going to happen finally happened, and I couldn't be more excited. So with this guy, I couldn't wait. So I bought it from a fellow collector, from Carlos, and I just gotta have it now, you know. So man, my expectations were just they exceeded from what I was anticipating. I was anticipating something like Ultron, to be quite honest with you. And I was thinking that, hey, when I hold this guy in hand, there's going to be a lot of spikes. There's going to be a lot of things that it's going to fall off or going to break. It's going to be really fragile. It's not. It's a very solid figure with a lot of switch outs and options that you can play around with, that if you are one of those guys who likes, hey, you know what, I want to switch things around and do different things. As you can see here, he has that capability where he does have a lot of weapons. He has a lot of accessories that, again, you could take out and change the look of the figure. Now, the one caveat for this, of course, is this is Cyborg, and if you just started collecting, you might not have the rest of the Justice League. You could start now with, you know, the black suit Superman and Nightmare Batman, and you can insert him into the fold. As you can see, this is a part of the base, but I know if you do that, a part of you would eat you and be like, hey man, I gotta get at least Aquaman or Flash or, you know, the Justice League Batman at least. And that's a difficult position to be in. So let's take a look at the accessory he comes with. He comes with basically two fisted hands and this 6-fingered hands, which is kind of like, when I first saw this, I was like, what? Why is I mean, it's Cyborg. I shouldn't be surprised, but you can see here 6 fingers. It's nicely detailed. You can see it feels like an Iron Man figure with the joints and all that stuff. One thing that I wished it did have was the Iron Man articulated fingers. Not a deal breaker by any stretch, but something that I wish it came with. Now you see these thrusters they're pretty awesome once you insert them in. I don't see myself using them a lot because it's pointy and I feel like I'm just gonna break it. I love the fact that they're there though, and he does have this kind of like extra arms, especially when you saw the Nightmare version. You can replicate that, but there's a lot of moving parts to this, and you can see this ball joint that you can insert in his back. And again, you can switch out the hands as well if you want to. It is just awesome that it's there. Honestly, they didn't have to include this with so many people clamoring for Cyborg. People going the statue route, you know, just a 1/6 statue Cyborg or custom route. They could have included a very basic Cyborg and this would have sold. But he got this nice shield as well, which again you insert via ball joint there, and the peg is pretty secure. It's not like a regular peg that you have in his hands, which is kind of scares me as well, because I don't think you can just switch it out and change it. So if it breaks, so you got to be really careful with that. And then you got some switch outs here into his I guess, what is this, a plasma cannon arm, and this is more of a, you know, this is when he was trying to hit Superman, and you do have both arms, so you gotta pay attention when you're inserting it. Inside you will see a description. You see that R right there, that means for the right arm, and then there's like a hinge at the bottom, like a square peg, so it can only go one way. You know, it's gonna snap easily, so you just gotta be patient and careful with that. And those arms do light up as well, both of them, so you kind of just have to figure out a way. So you remove most of the pieces are removable, honestly, so you remove that. I made a mistake there, so again, not a big deal. If you know you're on the right path, So, and then the switch comes in here, and you see it's pretty bright, and I'm being blasted with lights whenever I review, and this is still pretty pretty bright. So that's a pretty cool, neat option there. And then again, you can exchange the top portion of this cannon. Now to the exclusive part, which you can only get if you buy the exclusive edition, is that head sculpt, which we're going to take a look more later on. And of course the base Justice League Cyborg, kind of like the hanger of the Batman's plane. I don't know what you call that, but you put them all together, it looks pretty cool. It does have that flight dynamic stand as well. So let's take a look at the armor and body. I love Iron Man, and this gives you an Iron Man / endoskeleton feel. It looks fragile, to be quite honest with you, but it's not. You hold it, it's a very solid figure. It does have this kind of chrome effect with some textures in it. It feels good in hand. You can articulate it in a lot of ways, which I'm going to show in some options as well here. A lot of moving parts, but it's not something that you need to be too worried about. And now on the side here, you can see and because it's more of a robotic figure, you see a lot of gears. It's not like RoboCop though, where the pistons actually do work, but it does hide like those ball joint at the feet. You can see there it is nicely blended in to the chrome finish. I wouldn't even call this chrome. It's more of a, I don't know, like a washed out. There's a lot of texture in here. And then there's double jointed on the knees as well, and the armor plates on the back kind of moves around. The only thing that I wish they would have had as well is that this plates in the back, I wish it was like Iron Man, where it's magnetic. They're still using the pegs, where I don't think you're gonna break them because they're not that fragile unless you are really not, careful when inserting them. But it's there, especially the back part, where when you open up the back and try to light up the chest area, you need to insert your fingers, your fingers in there, and you gotta pry it out. It's not ideal for 2023. I wish it was like magnetic, but the arms, it is double jointed elbows. You go down in the wrist area. So the elbows can only go one way, but there is a bicep swivel, so you can kind of mimic like going back and forth, but forearm wise it doesn't exist. So now let's take a look at the head sculpt. We'll go first with the exclusive version. This is the most high quality that I could get. The lights on this one is actually pretty bright red. I don't know what's coming out orange, but it is bright and it's red, and there's a lot of nice texture in here. It's not even. I'm pretty sure you can tell it. It feels like it's dented. It actually reminds me of Metal Gear helmet with Raiden, or Gray Fox, whatever you want to call him. I forgot I think it's Gray Fox. It kind of reminds me of that. So in one of my shorts, I'm gonna create like a scene between him and Raiden, because I still do have that figure from a long time ago. I think it's Revengeance from Metal Gear. And the back part, to turn on the lights, you remove the back part of this helmet, but it's not magnetic compared to the Iron Man figures. It's not a big deal, but like on the other head sculpt, I kind of separated the bottom part. So, I wish it was magnetic and not those studs that they do have in the back. But overall, the paint application is great. It does have a lot of texture. It's a lot of dent on this helmet as well, and a lot of, it's kind of red here, and the details is amazing. I think this is worth picking up as a special edition because it's a head sculpt. It's not a hologram effect or anything like that, but it's a head sculpt. Now let's take a look at this, the comparison between the head sculpt. So this is one of the best ones that I've seen so far. Look at that transition right there. You can't tell me that it doesn't look like Ray Fisher. Man, the color, it's just, I couldn't find a high quality picture, and that's completely photoshopped, of course, that image that I showed you earlier. But look at the texture on the face of Ray Fisher here. I think it's fantastic. I think they got the likeness 10 out of 10. The lights on his eye and his forehead is pretty bright as well. Now you can kind of see the separation. I don't think I pushed it all the way. The back part of his helmet, again, it's pretty similar. It's really similar to the other head sculpt because it's basically the same, but you pluck it out and then you turn on the lights. However, it is not magnetic, so you just kind of have to line it up together. Again, I'm going back to that, but this is a $300 figure. Pretty much almost the same price as an Iron Man figure, who is a die cast. This is not die cast, it's made out of plastic. This would have been nice as die cast, but it didn't need to be. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Look at, I'm just turning off the lights here so you can see how bright actually is the eyes and his forehead is. Look at that. And then there's details on the eyes as well. I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a nice circular, you know, kind of like his eyeballs in there as well. So articulation wise, this guy is pretty articulated. So you can have him actually look up pretty significant. I didn't push it up here, but you could. The arms there, at first they were scary because this was really tight, but once you kind of, you know, loosen it up, you could do a whole range of movement into the arm area. And as you can see, the shoulder pads, kind of like Iron Man, you can move it out of the way. There is a butterfly joint on the shoulders, bicep swivel as well, so you can do some stuff. The elbows, as you can see there, it kind of separates on that end, so you can do a nice bend here. So this is a poser's dream, and actually you can separate the kind of like an Iron Man as well. You can pull it up, not as much as Iron Man, but yes, there's separation here. The knee, you can bend it quite nicely. There is a toe articulation, and so you can already see there is a ball joint in there, so there's ankle pivot. So on the legs area, you can move the hips as well. This part right here, this actually does move. They're all rubber, so don't be afraid to move them around. Again, also the torso area, you could pull it down to get a little bit more range of movement there. But overall, you can have this guy kneeling down, ground pound pose and all that stuff. Pretty articulated for a cyborg figure, which is pretty cool. Now poses. This is the flight mode that he does have. You can see there I inserted one of those, I don't know what you call that, the thrusters that he does have, and it's pretty nice. And you can see him all lit up with his chest, because I don't think I showcased him there. And mind you, I am blasting this guy with lights and it looks fantastic. Again, I am happy that this was made, but if this guy was announced this year, first and foremost, if this was announced this year, it wouldn't come out for 2 years. This would have been a USB powered figure. I don't mind being batteries if the USB is going to be like Mark 1, but this red light in his chest just brings out so much, it brings it to life basically. And unlike, because I did have Ultron, when it's not lit up, a pretty boring figure. Cyborg is not, I guess, because of all the textures and the details on his armor, and the beautiful head sculpt as well, and the switch outs with the hands and weaponry. That makes him so much different than Cyborg. I mean, than Ultron. That makes him really cool. And look at all these hands behind him as well. That reminds me of Doctor Strange. But this is the type of poses that you can pull off as well. See, this is him fully decked out. I gave him the shield, kind of like he's fighting Superman when he kind of like shielded that blast, the laser eye from Superman, and he got that arm as well, the plasma cannon. Pretty cool. I can't say enough good things about this figure. 312, is it 312 or 315, something like that? Not bad. Not bad for what you're getting. 2 head sculpts if you get the exclusive edition, which I highly suggest you do, and all these accessories on top of the light up functions and the switch outs and all that stuff. So final thoughts on this guy. you should have guessed it by now. I love this figure. Love it. Base, consistent with the theme. I think Zack Snyder, because of his Justice League, brought this to life. If Zack Snyder never made that 4-hour film, we would have never gotten Cyborg. I'm sure there's a lot of people like myself who still held on to their Justice League, or still longing for this. If you are, I highly suggest you pick this up. As a figure, as a standalone figure, it is fantastic. You get kind of like a robotic figure, light up functionality for both head sculpt. The chest lights up, the hands lights up, so you're almost getting like an Iron Man-esque figure, which is a little bit less than Iron Man because it's only like $300. Iron Man nowadays are around $380, ranging from that to $450. Base is decent, but again, I don't know how much of a fan of you are of Cyborg if you're gonna pick him up now and he's by himself. Could it still work? Of course, it still could. But there's a lot of benefit for somebody like myself who has still the Justice League. Now, if you're gonna pick this up and decide to pick up the rest of Justice League, you could do that, but that might be an expensive endeavor that you are going through. But nonetheless, as a figure, do I recommend this by itself? Absolutely. Looks great. Feels great. There's a lot of poses that you can pull off, a lot of switch outs, a lot of gimmicks with the light up functions and all that stuff. But, it is up to you whether you feel that way with Cyborg or not. But then again, thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully you do like this video. Give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitch. And I'll see you guys in the next one.